language anyway.
We let everybody know,
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Melick and psychic demonologist Jennifer Celsi Melick as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Mallett.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate Magazine Radio, over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are also heard on WCET 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, High Point Radio 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, and the Rift Radio Network family out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome one and all, and hello to everyone in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including our archives like page on Facebook called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's upcoming in the near future. We hope everyone's doing well, as always. We are still waiting for spring. It's almost here, I think. We have an awesome show for you guys today. But first, let's do our shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who share our show banners this week. We always appreciate it greatly, and thank you kindly. Who do we have?
This week we have Walt Christos, Dots of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Paranormal Soup, Jamie Demlosh, JJ Paranormal, Metaphysical Bounce, Howie Odell from the Orion Effect,
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you.
rest in peace.
Every so often we do a show dedicated to conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, which is one of the 8 categories we cover here on Paraversal Universe. Today, we are joined by conspiracy analyst and radio personality Riscalla Stephen, and we are expecting Angel Strong to be joining us shortly. They're from the Red Pill reality show. We've been guests on their show before, which was most excellent. Awesome. So we have Angel with us.
Yay.
Yay.
The angel has landed.
All right. So we are returning the gesture for more good conversation, right? We're going to discuss.
I absolutely loved having you all join Riscalla and I. It was a learning experience as well as fun.
Yes, and we are so glad that we can bring you to our show and for more of the same. And,
I'm ready.
So the plan is we're going to discuss spirituality behind the fight for good against evil. We're going to talk about some of the good things which can be done to help out the greater good. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about. I even have the list of conspiracies here, and it's a long one. You'd be surprised. You guys,
we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Right, exactly.
In this case, instead of it being a rabbit hole of information, it's going to be a black hole of endless information.
I agree. There's so much out there, and it's so much fun to share it with people that are just as inquisitive as I am, because we want the truth.
Right. So we usually ask our first-time guests to tell us a little bit about themselves. So I think in this case, perhaps let's start with your awakenings, your aha moment when you realize that things are way different than we were taught in school, and how that started your journey to where you both are today. Ladies, go first.
Yeah, sure. Angel.
Well, I was raised by parents that were extremely loving, but extremely strict. And my father, who was a police officer, ended up going to law school to be a state attorney. So I did what every child shouldn't do. When my father said, "Don't ever look in my case files," I looked. And when I saw the cases that he was handling, you can just imagine, as a state attorney, he had some very dramatic cases of abuse. I could not believe my own eyes as a little kid, and I questioned and I cried, and I only did it a couple times before I confronted my father and said, what are these people? Why would they do this? And that started my journey of trying to understand the biblical text and the Torah, because I was raised to choose my religion because I was Jewish, but they also offered me to go to a Catholic school because that was the only school that had really a good parochial teaching.
Right.
So that started my journey. I wanted to understand God. I never gave up on God, but I wanted to understand the people that he let run around this planet. And it's taken me to 70 countries, and I learn everything new every day, something new, not everything, but something. And it's from people like you and Jennifer Riscalla, Michael Vera, all of us, and the listeners too. I know that you two are familiar, and Riscalla, of course, that some of the questions that are posed to us by listeners or watchers of our shows, they hit us with such questions that we have to dig deeper, and that's what I've always done.
Right. And not everybody's willing to do that. But I'm glad that there are people out there that are.
No, I want to know. And my journey ended up going from stateside and, like I said, to all these countries, and then actually living and working in Israel, working in the Arts of Antiquities department, going through scrolls and pottery and every kind of thing that you could imagine, trying to piece this puzzle together. And I got to work with physicists from MIT back in the States and in Israel, people that had done Aliyah to move to Israel, that welcomed me after a lot of fighting. They welcomed me in their circle, and I continued to learn from them. So I've had an interesting life. It's been very, very interesting.
How about you, Riscalla?
The beginning of my awakening was 9/11. I was I remember being on the phone with my brother. I called him on my way to the office, and I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm leaving the house." I said, "Don't leave, go back inside." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Don't argue with me." And we never talk like that to each other, ever. And I said, "Don't argue with me. Go back inside, turn the TV on right now." And he went inside, turned the TV on. Of course, he saw what everybody else was seeing. And I was just pulling into the office, and I had a little TV in the office, and I was watching it, and he was watching it. And as the buildings came apart, I kept saying to him, "Look at that. It doesn't look right." And he kept saying, "What do you mean it doesn't look right?" I said, "It's just not what I expected, that the buildings would just almost vanish, like they were gone." So that gnawed at me. And then something was burning inside of me, and I couldn't put this fire out. And I kept looking at what was going on with 9/11 and how there was still fires going on. 8 weeks later, there's still fires underground burning, and none of that and everything that they said didn't make any sense to me. And I kept digging and digging and digging. And one night I was on a government site, and I stumbled across a document, and I can't remember the name of the document. It was regarding the Gulf of Tonkin. The Gulf of Tonkin is what started the Vietnam War. And this document basically said that the whole thing was created by people on our side. In other words, people within our government started this war and said that the Vietnamese had attacked one of our ships in the Gulf of Tonkin, when that's not what happened. We just needed a war to go to, and that was my aha moment. That was my awakening. I don't remember the date, but I do remember the day. It was a Saturday. The reason I remember is because my son was bowling that night. He usually comes home around midnight, so it had to be around midnight, maybe 12:30. And he caught me at my desk crying unconsolably. And he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Just go away. Just go away." I just was trying to come to terms with what I read. What I read said that my friends who fought for this country and shed their blood died in vain. And it was a difficult time for me. My whole world unraveled. It was something that was the last thing in the world I ever had expected to find. So from that point forward, what the government had taught me when I was in the military, my official title was Item Research Specialist. I had a secret security clearance. And my job was, they would come to me that they needed parts for these jets. I would look up in the technical orders or the manuals or the service manuals, as some people might know it. And I would find the parts, and then I would very quickly, within a span of about 45 minutes, I would be able to determine whether that part was on base, whether that part was in town, or where that part was at one of our major storage facilities. So the government taught me how to reference, how to cross-reference, and how to research items and look in different areas to derive an answer that is the majority of the time accurate, very accurate. So having that background and this gnawing feeling, this fire that was going on inside of me would not go out, it has not gone out to this day, refusing to remain silent, then witnessing what happened with Afghanistan, witnessing what happened with Iraq, witnessing what happened with Yemen, witnessing what happened with Libya, watching this cookie cutter, if you will, excuses for going to war when they're really just excuses. There's no justification for us to be in any of these wars right now. None, zero. And learning that early on, I can't believe it's 18 years ago. Seems like yesterday. Learning that early on has caused me to be a constant, vigilant person looking for the answers. And when I run across somebody like Angel, who has a vast background of all kinds of information, that is like I don't even want to call it a gem. It's priceless. The amount of information that a person like this has and the willingness of them to share with others is what continues to drive me. People like you and Jennifer. Your willingness to share your information with others is what inspires me to continue doing what I'm doing, because there's a lot of people out there that don't want us to do what we're doing. And so for me, the aha moment was February of 2002, somewhere around midnight, learning that the Vietnam War was started all about a lie, and that my friends who fought diligently, believing that, and I was one of them, believing that we were fighting for our freedom, we're only fighting for corporations. And a lot of what I was told back then now made sense to me once I found out about the truth about the Vietnam War. So that was my aha moment, February of 2002.
You know, I just came across an article yesterday discussing that America's looking for another war to get into, you know?
Unfortunately, yes, we are. And it looks like it might be Venezuela at this point.
And that's sad.
This system that is in place, this machine, if you will, that has been in place for a very long time. We're just, many of us are just waking up to it. I've only been awake to it for 18 years, 17 years. But many of us, I remember people when I was growing up going, oh, about this and about that. I'm going, you guys are crazy. Now I look back and I think, why was it that I refused to accept what they were saying? Is it because what they were saying is so crazy? It sounds so crazy to people. You talk about some of the things that these people have done, just unspeakable things, and people look at you like you've grown another head. That's worse than the worst horror film that anybody's ever. That's even beyond the thought of a horror film. That something like that could be real, but that's the reality of it, and that's what I had to face. And I think more and more people are waking up to it. I mean, in my experience, it appears that more and more people are waking up to what is going on. We have been lied to. We have been deceived repeatedly on many, many levels. It's not just about the wars. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. Everything, our entire lives revolves around lies. Even some of our history is inaccurate because the winners decide to write what they want to write. And so people like me and people like you and Jennifer and Angel, we're constantly striving for that what is the truth? Sometimes, I got to tell you, sometimes it takes a toll on you. I know for me it does. It takes a toll because you find out what you find out and you have to come to terms with that. It's not pretty, some of this stuff.
Angel, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, all I can say is I have brothers, and both of them were the ages where that almost could have been in the Vietnam War. And my father, who was very connected, said, I will cut your trigger finger off before I let you go into that phony baloney.
God bless him. God bless him. And
he meant it. My brothers graduated in one of them in 1972. Annapolis and West Point trying to recruit. My father said no. And I'm talking, we're patriots to the core, to the bone. But my father knew exactly what was going on and said, you'll fight for the country here on this soil, but you're not going on anybody else's soil to fight for somebody that's a war machine trying to make money.
Right. I only wish I did back then, and many of my friends did. And it was the hippie area. I graduated in 71, so I was right behind your brother. Or just in front of your brother, depending on which way you look at it. But many of my friends back then were hippies, and they were awake to what was going on. And I just thought it was the hippie movement, I just thought, well, everybody wants to smoke pot, make love, and have fun, which wasn't a bad idea. Right. You just didn't really get anywhere in life, but hey, we certainly didn't want to kill anybody. And but many of them were protesting the war and saying, I remember them saying it's a I can't think of the word. It's like a false war. I can't think of the word that they were using, but they were protesting the war because many of them recognized that we had no business doing what we were doing. It's sad. And when you just think about how they report, I think it's almost 60,000 of our guys, that's what they report anyway, died in this war. God knows how many Vietnamese died in this war. For doing more than trying to protect themselves. Really, because that's the bottom line. We attacked them. They didn't attack us.
Right. Okay. And with that, it is time for our first commercial break. You're listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our first commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, and we'd like to take a minute to thank everyone who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art director Lawrence D. Miza, music theme by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, producer and owner at WBHM Kat Hobson, also to Howie Odell and Lisa Renaga at the Rift family, and to Michael Vera at WCET-FM. Thank you all for carrying our content and working together on our behalf and the behalf of our audience everywhere. And, of course, a huge thank you to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all.
Amen.
And appreciation.
Amen from me, too.
I'll third that.
Awesome. And appreciation to the various platforms we are on, including iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Daily Motion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, Podbean, Google Play, Mixcloud, and Paranormal Radio Livestream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. And this segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, Wisconsin's alternative to MUFON. Okay, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking with conspiracy analysts Riscalla Stephen and Angel Strong from the Red Pill Reality Show. And I know you guys are still with us because you amen, which is cool.
You know, going back to what we were talking about before the commercial break, I think with this whole thing, what made me sad and angered me, even though I wasn't born yet at the time of that particular war, was the treatment that these poor men got when they came home.
Yeah, well, I got spit on.
They got spit on. They got called all kinds of names. It was horrible. I felt so bad hearing and reading about that.
I was, again, I think this was part of the political ploy back then. We were called baby killers. And I got to be honest with you, in some cases they did that. People, this is why sometimes on my show, I'll be talking about things like this. I become very emotional because people don't realize what goes on in war. They just have this cosmetic idea of what they've seen in the movies and stuff like that. It's nothing like that at all. And it's horrible. It's horrific. It's possibly the main reason that 22 of our soldiers who come home kill themselves every day because they can't deal with what they've seen and done. It makes you operate under a completely different sense of right and wrong when you're involved in a situation like it's all about you and your brothers or whoever's with you that you're protecting. Everybody else is the enemy, and you do anything to protect them, whatever that might be. So going off and doing these things, these horrific things, and coming back and then trying to deal with it is a pretty difficult thing for a lot of these guys. And that's why we see so much of it going on. In my personal opinion, we don't belong anywhere. In any of these places, we don't. That's my personal opinion. I'm not privy to what's going on around the world with regard to the leaders. I'm just privy to knowing the logic that we have used to repeatedly do this over and over again. And to me, that it's wrong. It's there's no other way to explain it. It's wrong. It's unjustified. And it may be even technically illegal if there is a law that keeps one country from just attacking another country. I mean, making up a reason and then attacking another country. So there's a lot of things that this country has done that are less than honorable, but we have done much more that is honorable. And that's what I try to focus on, even though we have the reality of what we have to live with. That's part of the truth. And from there, it's just an everyday thing for me, dealing with it every day, day in and day out. Like, what did I just find out the other day? Yesterday, I was reading an article about this is the kind of respect that we get from people who are within our government. I was reading an article about, now this didn't happen during this administration, it happened during the wonderful last administration. Remains of the servicemen coming over from various places, Iraq, Afghanistan, were found in the dumps, literally in the landfills. Their remains were located in the landfills. This is the kind of respect that these people were getting from our government, the people who send them over there so that they can make more money. And while they're over there, well, they're very valuable. But as soon as they come back or something happens to them and they can't do what they need to do for them anymore, they're trash. This is what happens. This is what we deal with. So this is the reality of for me that I see going on. Anyway, I've taken enough.
That is disgusting. That is, and I know what you're talking about. I know that the Obama administration was getting rid of servicemen's bodies, servicemen and women's bodies in dumps. I mean, that to me is the most disgusting, despicable. That tops the chart on treason, in my eyes, of how they treated the remains of people. And you're talking about people like Obama that wouldn't get out of his bed to even do anything for this country other than cut it down and criticize it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you talk about the Vietnam War. We're looking back at people that were like, what, the average age, 20 to 22 years old. They were still young kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Millions of men left to go fight the war, believing one thing, that they were doing truth and justice. And by the time they came back home, they realized that they were manipulated and lied to. And on top of that, like Jennifer said, then you have the people treating them like crap, and even today, it goes on today. These guys, they can't get, I'm all the time reading about people having problems at the VA hospital.
Not just the VA hospital. You have people that are public places like restaurants and coffee shop chains and stuff like that that refuse to serve vets. And it shouldn't be this way. These are the same people that stick their necks out to keep the rest of us free.
Yeah.
And they don't deserve this kind of treatment.
Right.
I would love to be there when that happens, that somebody would refuse a vet, because they would be not only brainless but toothless. I am not kidding. They better not move to a state that's starting to ban straws, because that's the only way they'd be able to get their nutrition henceforward.
There's
you've got these idiots that run around that want to go after servicemen that gave them the right to even protest. You don't have to get into somebody's face. If you want to stand somewhere with an idiot box sign saying that you're against whatever you're against, but not the people, just the serviceman or woman that basically sacrifices all of their time to fight for people's freedom. I'm tired of simpletons. These people that have nothing better to do than go after people that give everything, and these people usually give nothing. It just boils me. It really does. My blood.
I have a term. I have a term for them. It's UI. It's useful idiots. They're useful for the dark side.
Yeah. You know, we had. I'm sorry.
No.
We had brought up, or you had brought up before, and it's true, as conspiracy analysts, we take on a lot of information that is negative. It's dark. It's dark stuff, you know. So, and I was going to ask this later, but you did touch on it, and I you know, it is important. You know, for those that do spend a lot of time looking at this stuff, how do you guys vent after taking so much negativity from analyzing all the conspiracies on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Angel.
I don't trust anything until I have dissected it down to nano size. I really do not. Even it's a parallax, because somebody can hear or see something the same exact angle, but somebody looking at it or hearing it from a different angle sees or hears something different. I want the Rubik's cube sides all lined up. So when I hear all the negativity, I know it. I can just feel, but then I research. We just have to accept we have been lied to. And that's the problem. People don't like to be duped. And it's so much easier to take somebody that doesn't think they know something than it is to take somebody that thinks they know everything. You know, to unlearn something is much more difficult than to learn something from a clean slate. So when I hear the negativity, I use my phrase that somebody else has said many times over, way before Reagan, but trust but verify. And we can't make anybody believe anything, but we can tell them, I've looked at all the information. We are being lied to. And when you open your eyes and you research it yourself, you will find out the same. And I can't tell you how many people come back later and say, oh my God. And that's what defines how I get through it, because I have so many people later that actually come back.
Okay.
Riscalla?
I walk every day, and you know, some people meditate. During my walk, it's like a meditation. I don't listen to music. I don't have a radio going. It's just me and my dog, and the walk is typically 2.5 to 3.5 miles every morning. And during that time, I kind of cleanse myself. I do some imaginative, like meditation. Just I look around me. A lot of times it's early in the morning. The sun is just starting to come up, so it's kind of, there's a little bit of beauty going on there until you see the chemtrails. But the sun's coming up, so I look at the surroundings around me. I'm in an equestrian area, so there's people out here with horses everywhere, and sometimes the horses come out to greet us. So it's a very relaxing kind of thing, and kind of to me, it's like a washing away. And I do it every day. Some days longer than others, but it's typically an hour and a quarter or so, anywhere from about 2 3/4 to 3.5 miles. Me and my dog just walking, and in the silence of where we are, there's not traffic or anything. It's pretty quiet. The roads are dirt roads, because it's intended for horse traffic, not for cars. But even though we have cars, so it's not like I'm walking around intersections or busy roads. It's very quiet. You can hear the birds. You see the squirrels. Very kind of a back to nature kind of thing. My phone is on silent. I don't take any calls during that time. The only reason I take it with me is because I need to know if I'm going to go slow or fast, because I could spend 2 hours doing it and still be. This is why I had such a hard time explaining to my doctor. I didn't think it was my heart when I had this little scare back a couple of weeks ago, because I do this every day, and this is kind of my cleansing. So that's how I deal with it. Every day I walk for 1 to 1 1/4 hours, and it's kind of a meditation walk.
Do you hear the difference between Riscalla and I? Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. He's the nice, calm one. He meditates. I'm here seething, ready to
chomping at the bit.
Premeditate.
Right.
But I mean, it takes that kind. I love that he has a different. He's soothing, and he wants to clear his head, and I'm always fist to cuff, ready to rumble.
You guys have a really good chemistry on the radio.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. That is true. So, do you guys think people have the power?
Ask that again.
Do you guys think the people? Okay, like for me, for example, like if you listen to, let's say, like David Icke's message, he'll talk about a lot of the negative things that are going on in the world, but he also has always had this message that, look, everybody, the people have the power. Mm-hmm. We can change this, So, it's. Do you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree. In my experience of life, the problem is the people have the power. Number one, they don't recognize they have the power. Number two, they're mentally not prepared to handle the power. The majority of them, or maybe that's not true anymore. That may not be accurate. Many of them are not mentally prepared to handle them. They're not mentally prepared to make a responsible decision about the future of their lives, because everything has been handed to them for so long that they can't handle that. They can't do that.
That is so true. I look at it kind of like this. I have a toaster, and I know it will toast bread, but I better plug it in, because if it's not plugged in, it's not going to do anything. So knowing that we have access to the power is one thing, but actually plugging ourselves in to make the difference, to make us hot, is what we have to do. Public apathy has caused a lot of problems. My vote doesn't count. Me doing something doesn't count. Yes, it does. Every single action that we take, we can have somebody else's reaction to it. But we have to. I want to bring this to the biblical text. Do you mind if I do that for a second, since
No, not at all.
Passover and Good Friday? Every single instance in the Bible, in the Hebrew scripture, when God the Father or God Almighty said something, there was always a counterbalance to it. Like when the Egyptians were going through the Sea of Reeds or the Red Sea, he never made the Egyptians disappear. He told Moses, walk, put your arms up, do what I tell you, and walk. When the Israelites were hungry, he didn't take away their hunger. He made them collect manna. He gave them something, but he gave them instructions. Nothing in the biblical text tells us we're just supposed to sit there. We're supposed to be in partnership. And I think that goes to say, even with our country and our fellow man, like, let's do something.
Well, and the thing is, they're taking God out of everything, and that's the issue.
Well, the problem here is you have half of us, or half the population, that are actually doing things, even if it's just small steps to try and make a difference and change things. Then you have the other half where they're afraid to leave their comfort zones, or they just don't want to do it.
Yes,
I mean, it's kind of like the Cain and Abel, one against one. It's like a 50-50. It's basically split right down the middle, where some of us will do some stuff and some people won't budge. But I mean, we're watching, if we're just looking at it through the prism of the United States, we are divided straight down the middle. You could draw a chalk line.
And I believe all of that is by a system that has been in place for a very long time. And it is designed that way. People are conditioned to see things a certain way. The evidence of that is if you go look at it's during Christmas time, look at how people act during Christmas time. Why is it during that particular time of year when they're going to give you all these great deals that people just go bananas and they act literally uncivilized? I mean, some of the videos are horrifying with what you see. Why is it that? Why does that happen? What creates that kind of behavior? The idea that you're going to get something great, but you have to be the first one. That kind of. Then they call it marketing, but really it's programming. It's conditioning, if you will. You have to be the first one there. You're at the door. All these people wait for it. Some of these people camp out. It's amazing. They camp out, literally camp out, waiting to be the first one in line. And God forbid if you're in the doorway when they open those doors, because it literally is like a stampede, like a cattle stampede coming through a door. Why? Why is it like that? Because I believe because there is a system in place that conditions, they know they can't reach everybody, but they get enough to get the job done, if you will. And that's what's happening. This is what we're fighting. Day in and day out, we're fighting this system that is in place that conditions or programs people, and they don't even know it. Many of these people don't even have a clue why it is that they want to do. They want to be the first one to have whatever it is, an Apple phone or whatever that might be. That's not the point. The point is what created that demand within their mind. Because the first thing that happens before anything is the thought.
Why don't we continue the rest of this conversation after our next commercial break? You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our second commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we are on Twitter as NWPS and MeWe as Paraversal Universe. Our like and group pages on Facebook are under various headings as well. Having said that, check out our society's like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malik, Psychic Demonologist. Leave a like if you like what you see. We always appreciate it. And there are some Facebook group pages we also want you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one. The Lake Monstrosities group page is another. Feel free to join them both. We would certainly love to see you there. Each network mentioned has a group and like page on Facebook as well, so check that out for upcoming content. This segment is brought to you by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey, by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group page, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the chat room live. Let's get back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we're talking conspiracies and crimes and corruption with geopolitical and conspiratorial analysts Riscalla Stephen and Angel Strong from the Red Pill Reality Show. So, when we were on during break, we had brought up a couple topics were brought up, and one of these segments I wanted to talk about what's going on today, and I also want to take one of these segments and talk about the spirituality behind this a little more. But for this segment, there was certainly the fire of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Is what a lot of people are talking about right now. So I guess I'd just like to get your thoughts.
Because what happened was certainly tragic.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Do you guys have any? Have you been following that? Do you have any perspectives on that?
Of course.
Okay, let's hear it. Yay.
Well, it's very odd to me. First of all, the way the fire was so accelerated looking to me. I mean, I understand because I have a background in electrical engineering. So, I mean, I know that sparks hit something, something shorted or would have had to short. And apparently, I don't know who was in there, but the spark had to hit something that was flammable. Like that's 800-year-old wood. What made it so intense? I mean, did a curtain catch on fire? What happened? But one of the odd things to me, one of the many odd things, is it was a month to the day, I believe, was like March 15th that the mosque supposed shooting in New Zealand happened. 30 days to the day, or a month to the day, that it happened in a place called Christchurch, New Zealand. So when I look at those things, conspiracy blossoms. Because in New Zealand, that's where that mosque supposed shooting was in Christchurch.
Yes.
Then a month later, we've got this fire blazing, and we did see, and it's not a conspiracy, we did see some Muslims cheering. And it's not photoshopped. It's been, these are news reports where they would love to burn churches down.
They have been burning churches down.
Well, I feel if it's arson, it's either going to be from that source or it would be from deep within. For example, they said right before the fire they pulled out them 12 statues.
They took off the gargoyles.
It's like if they knew it was coming inside the people that are within the organization, I mean, and I believe there's numerology, the gematria and the numerology behind this stuff too. I mean, they have certain days that they do things because of their religious beliefs and practices.
They absolutely do. All we have to do is look back to Syria to see when ISIS was going in there destroying every temple, even the temples of Baal. They were tearing them down, but they were keeping certain statues that they had pulled out prior. And it reminds me, it's very much like the left here in the US of A. What are they doing? They're tearing down every single statue of any kind of our history, trying to rebuild the history. This is happening worldwide. And it's just so obvious to us, but we know, and I'm just going to throw this in, it's obvious that to me, as somebody that has an engineering background, I find it very questionable that something just happened, some short circuit. And I know that it's just a guess, but it's an educated one. So.
Yeah. You know what, too, I heard, and it wasn't just Notre Dame, for that whole entire week, all across France, or Paris, Catholic churches were targeted, and they were experiencing fires, too. And as a matter of fact, here in the States, and I told Kevin about this a couple of nights ago, somebody got arrested in New York City in St. Patrick's Cathedral. He was walking through the church with 2 7-gallon jugs full of gasoline and lighter fluid. And when he got stopped, he said that this is a head scratcher. He said that his car ran out of gas and he had to cut through the church to get out through the south side to get to his car.
His car wasn't out of gas.
His tank was empty,
And he said his tank was empty.
And they checked, and it was.
He must have got his direction from Jussie Smollett.
There you go.
But could you imagine, though? I mean, if he is innocent, and he may be, because his vehicle did run out of gas. Yeah. And what he said was making common sense.
Yeah, but here's what sticks out to me. Well, why don't you walk around the block like a normal person? Why do you need to cut through a Catholic church to get to your car?
That's the kind of person that's caught with their hand in a cookie jar, and then you tell them, "I told you no cookies. I wasn't taking any. I just wanted to see what that felt like."
Yeah. Right.
Let me put in something about what happened with regard to the fire.
Right.
I know without a doubt, it's not a matter of believing. I know that there is a movement to bring this to a one world government, and within that one world government there will be a one world religion, and that one world religion will end up being, more than likely, called Chrislam. Now the evidence of that is the Pope has just invited some imams to the Vatican for Muslim prayers. Okay, so I know that there is a movement for a one world government. There is a movement for a one world religion, and the easiest way to get people to move into that is to forget, just like what we've been talking about. We're ripping down our history and removing it and then rebuilding it with something else. There's talk of rebuilding Notre Dame with less Christian influence in it. Have you heard that yet?
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yes.
So we tear
it down.
They
wanted to make it more of today's France than yesteryear.
Yeah. Tear it down and then rebuild it more in leaning to Chrislam. Less Christian influence was the terminology I read.
We do know the Pope has talked and allowed the Quran and has in some ways said that Islam, and I'm not talking about all Muslims, because the majority of Muslims are just normal, normal people.
I have friends
but
who
the
are Muslim.
ones that,
You'd never know.
right, that are very nice. And I'm talking about the extremists, though. I mean, first of all, their sign is a sword. That's their calling card. I mean, I don't need to be a nuclear physicist to figure out that somebody that has a sword as their symbol isn't coming over to play patty cakes.
There we go.
But the majority of them are like, and I say this lovingly, but are like born into it, like a Christian.
Yes.
A lot of Christians say that they're Christian, but they don't even know one letter or scripture in the biblical text, but they were born into it. And that's the same with a lot of Muslims. They're born into the faith of Islam. But this Islam is the Pope allowing the Quran, and believe me, I've been at synagogues that allowed it too. And I've got, now, first of all, I ran up to the rabbi and told him to step outside. Nobody's ever taken me up on it. But they allow it in the synagogues too. People that despise them. And they let them have the pulpit. And this was one rabbi, was Time Magazine's Rabbi of the Year. I was sitting there. I got up and walked out.
You remember the story of the snake? President Trump.
Yeah.
He wasn't president at the time. He was candidate Trump. The story
I know
of the
exactly.
Snake. That's exactly what this parallels in what's going on in this country today. We are allowing our enemies to come literally within us. When I was in the military, my biggest fear, believe it or not, this went on in school. This is, again, it's a system. We had two kinds of drills in school. We had the fire drill, and then we had the air drill. We would get up under, and there were two different kinds of sirens. The air drill, we would get up under our desks and place our heads between our knees in a fetal position and practice, because we could be being bombed at that time. That's to protect us for whatever good it would do, but to protect us from the bombs. So as kids, you can imagine, I went through this all the way through 6th grade, these air raids things. So one of my greatest fears when I joined the military was us using nuclear weapons on each other, because the war in Vietnam was raging, and there was talk about looking for expanding and doing this and doing that. And my greatest fear was literally, I was like in tears kind of fear that we were going to be involved in a nuclear war. And one night, one of my friends was talking to me. He says, and he was what we called a lifer. He'd been in for like 20 some odd years at that point. He was telling me, son, you got it all wrong. They'll never be able to beat us physically. The only way that this country can be defeated, because of the way that it's put together, is to be defeated from the inside out. That's exactly what is happening to us today. We are being defeated from the inside out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we were worried about it. The forefathers told us it was going to happen.
The left never talks about America or the USA America or God. They've removed God. I mean, we have half a country that absolutely despises. I mean, at the DNC convention, do you all remember they booed the very title God?
How shameful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and this country was founded on "In God We Trust." In other words, there was a pretense of greater good over evil. And with the way propaganda is being dished out today, they flipped that upside down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem here is that you have a majority of these people that listen to what the people on TV tell them to do. It's like they can't even think for themselves.
The system.
They go exactly what they got to by TV. And with that, it's time for our next commercial break. You're listening to Paraversal Universe. We'll be right back with our guest for the next segment.
Support for this NPR podcast and the following message come from the UPS Store, offering services from shredding to printing to mailboxing. And instead of closing this Easter weekend, April 19th and April 20th, the UPS Store is doing another ING altogether, opening. The UPS Store, every ING for small business, and of course, shipping.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Shannon Van Sant. A day after the release of a redacted version of the Mueller report, some key congressional Democrats say they want to see the unredacted version. NPR's Brian Naylor reports they're issuing a subpoena to the Department of Justice.
The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, New York Democrat Gerald Nadler, says his committee needs and is entitled to the full version of the Mueller report and the underlying evidence relating to special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. In a statement, Nadler says he's open to working with the department to reach a reasonable accommodation for access to the materials, but won't accept any proposal which leaves most of Congress in the dark. Before he released the Mueller report Thursday, Attorney General William Barr said he would make available to bipartisan leaders a version of the report with most of the redactions removed except for grand jury information. Nadler set a May 1st deadline for complying with the subpoena. Brian Naylor, NPR News, Washington.
A federal judge in Michigan clears the way for residents of Flint to sue the Environmental Protection Agency for failing to notify citizens that the city's water could be tainted with lead. As WDET's Quinn Kleinfelter reports, Flint's water became contaminated after the city began using its river for drinking water in 2014.
A group of Flint residents sued the EPA for allegedly mishandling the crisis that erupted after the city began using the Flint River without properly treating the water system's pipes. Flint switched to using water from a different source about a year and a half later, but by then the city's water was showing unusually high levels of lead. The lawsuit was filed in 2017. The federal government wanted the suit dismissed, arguing it was immune from liability. But in a scathing opinion, U.S. District Judge Linda Parker disagrees. Parker writes that EPA knew the Flint River was highly corrosive and was well aware that it posed a significant health risk and that state and city officials were not warning residents that their water could be laced with lead. For NPR News, I'm Quinn Kleinfelter in Detroit.
People gathered in Oklahoma City this morning to remember those who lost their lives 24 years ago in the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. Mayor David Holt said this site, now synonymous with an act of domestic terrorism, has become a symbol of resilience.
Let this sacred ground remain a special place for as long as this city still stands. Let it remain an impactful place, a place that continues to perpetuate many times more good than all of the evil that was unleashed here 24 years ago today.
Hundreds have been arrested in London this week, taking part in protests called the Extinction Rebellion, which have blocked roads and bridges for several days. The group staged a demonstration at Heathrow Airport today, and they are vowing to escalate their campaign if the UK government fails to declare a climate and ecological emergency. It's one of many demonstrations held by teens. This is NPR News. A California couple who committed a series of horrific child abuse crimes have been sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. NPR's Nathan Rott reports the couple pled guilty to 14 felony charges each, including one count of torture.
The crimes made international news last year when law enforcement raided a Southern California home and found 12 malnourished siblings. 2 of them had been chained to a bed for weeks. Prosecutors say that their parents, David and Louise Turpin, had abused and neglected their children since the 90s, first in Texas and then in California. The husband and wife cried during the sentencing. Some of their children addressed the courtroom. One of them said that they still have nightmares of the things that happened, but that they still love their parents and have forgiven them for a lot of those things. The judge ruled that the parents will be eligible for parole in 25 years. Nathan Rott, NPR News.
3 elite climbers are believed dead after an avalanche in the Canadian Rockies. They were attempting to scale a peak in Banff National Park in the province of Alberta. The trio was sponsored by the North Face clothing company, which has identified the men as David Lama and Hans-Jörg Auer from Austria and Jess Ross Kelly from the United States. Authorities say recovery efforts are on hold because of dangerous conditions and avalanches at the scene. An American man and his girlfriend are in hiding after building a sea home off the coast of Thailand. The Thai Navy says the home threatens the country's sovereignty. If found guilty, the couple could face life in prison or the death penalty. I'm Shannon Van Sant, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from halftime. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network out of Virginia, WCET-FM out of South Carolina, and High Point Radio out of New Jersey. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, coming to you from the still melting tundra of northern Wisconsin, here at the Northeast Paranormal Resource Center in Rylander. It's almost gone, folks. We've been saying this for like 2 months.
We may actually have a spring this year.
Yeah. You can always enjoy excellent fringe talk radio for awesome and informative radio shows about the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, and Fortean topics on this network and affiliate platform websites. Not only our show, but many other good shows about different facets of the unknown and unexplained. Much to listen to and much to enjoy. Stream live on TuneIn, iTunes, or the Paranormal Livestream app, available from Android app and the iTunes Store. This segment is brought to you by the Supernatural magazine, where our articles can be read. All right, back to Paraversal Universe. We are speaking with radio personalities, Riscalla Stephen and Angel Strong from the Red Pill reality show. And we were, again, talking during break, and we were talking about the power and the people and how significant that is to the equation. So let's talk about that a little bit more. You had some thoughts, Riscalla?
Well, I wanted to tell you that earlier on we had kind of brought that up and discussed it briefly, and I had mentioned this word, the system, that we are involved in a system, and this is a very vast, wide, deep system. It goes in many different directions, and part of that is the idea that people are conditioned or programmed in a way where many people believe that they have no power. We go back to the idea of, well, why bother voting? Your vote doesn't count. The very evidence that your vote counts is the reason that Trump is the president of the United States, because he was able to overcome this corrupted system that is in place. And he would not have been able to do that without the people. So where did that power come from? It came from us, people who voted for Trump, people who supported the idea of having someone other than the same old people who have been running this country give someone else an opportunity to do good for the people, which he is one of the few who has pretty much lived up to what he said he was going to do. He warned these people before he got into office what he was going to do, and he told the people before he went into office what he was going to do, and he did. But the point being is that how did he get there? He got there by enough people voting in order for them to override the corrupt system, because there is a degree of truth in that. Why bother voting? Because your vote doesn't count. Well, it doesn't count when the system, not enough of us show up to fight the system. Then it really doesn't count. But when enough of us come together and show up and unite, then we override all of the corruption that they have in place, and we literally upset their system. They completely freaked out when Trump won. There was no way in God's green earth that this man was ever going to be president in their eyes. Many of them have said that. Many of them have made statements to the effect that he will never, ever be president. Pelosi was one of them who said he will never be president. You can take that to the bank. Well, guess what?
Yep.
He is the president, and your banks are eventually going to fall if he has his way, because that's one of the things he's going to do. I'm off track a little bit. Let me get back to the point. The point is he could not have done that without you and me. That's my point. So when we mentioned earlier about do we believe in power of the people, and I said absolutely, there's my evidence right there. If we hadn't shown up in the numbers that we showed up, he would not be the president. We would have someone else as the president, and more than likely World War III, and I'm not exaggerating, World War III would have already started.
Angel?
I can't wait for the indictments
80,000.
of the left.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
waiting.
Patiently.
It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. You'll find that with this man, everything is timing. When he finally releases whatever it is that he's done, look at what this last little thing that he did. Okay, you guys, you want all these illegal immigrants here. We have been fighting to keep these people out, but since you want them so bad, we're going to send them to you. Look how, who would have thought that? Tell me he doesn't have them squirming. It is amazing. His timing is just impeccable.
Yes, it's funny. The left, all we heard was they believed no path to the White House. But what they won't believe is no evidence of collusion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so backwards.
Well, did you hear? They just asked for, all the Republicans asked for the resignation of, who was
Adam
it?
Schiff.
Yeah,
Schiff.
Right, because he will not drop it. And it's like, okay.
Why is he still
many
there anyway?
That's all he has left. This is all. These are people are grasping at straws. This is how desperate they've had. Can you imagine? Remember I mentioned earlier, because I had a kid that did this to me. I told them no cookies, and I turned around and was doing something. I came back a few minutes later, and they had their hand in the cookie jar. And when I caught them with their hand in the cookie jar, this guy was really smart. I told him he should be a lawyer when he grows up. I caught him with his hand in the cookie jar. I said, I wasn't going to take one. I just want to see what they felt like. So it's grasping at no matter what. Even when you're caught with your hand in the cookie jar, it's grasping for an answer that would somehow make sense to somebody. That's what
Right.
Schiff is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
all they have left. That's all. He's banging on the desk. How dare these people do this? And blah, 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 blah. And the guys over on the other side are laughing at him. He's lost all credibility. But this is all he has left. This is why I say they're desperate. There's nothing left for them. They were so certain that their buddy was going to find something that they can nail this president on. And then the reporters will be very quick to point out, well, there was over 200. I think it's 200. I'm guessing at the number, so if I'm incorrect, please understand I'm guessing. There was over 200 arrests. Well, not a single one of those arrests had anything to do with a direct tie between Russia and America. It was on a whole bunch of other stuff that they kind of cornered these people into, if you want to know the truth. Many of these people were forced into this thing. Can you imagine having the power over, Kevin, I'm taking you to court and I have deep pockets and you have, let's say, just for example's sake, you own a home and you have a couple of things, cars and stuff like that. I take you to court. My pockets are so deep that what you own, I could buy that pocket change to me. So guess what? I can wear you out in court, or you can plead guilty and I'll let you go from there. You follow what I'm saying? This is what is happening.
Yes, we all follow it. Riscalla, here's my question. Why is everybody so fixated on Russia? I mean, realistically, we all know that Obama said they called for Russia back from the 1980s. You remember the joke that Obama was acting like Russia's not our enemy. All of a sudden, Russia becomes our sworn enemy. Why?
Isn't it called deflection? Isn't that the term?
Yes.
When you're guilty of something, you push it off on the other party?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that's one of the things they do, and that's one of the things they're taught about in, the heck is that called? The, I can't believe I can't remember this. The rules for radicals. How you take what something is guilty or what you're guilty of, and you make it seem like your enemy is guilty of the same thing.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
You mirror it.
Yeah. There's one thing that I want to talk about that we did discuss bringing up during one of our breaks, and that was the horrifying incident regarding the child being dropped 3 stories from that balcony in the mall.
Yeah, thrown.
I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Go ahead, Angel.
Well, I think when I was with Riscalla on the Red Pill reality show that I misspoke, which I try not to do very often, but I thought he had passed away. I don't know what his condition is, but I'm sure it's critical. The first thing that struck me was it was at the Mall of America. And I thought somebody's playing word games there with that. I think it's significant, if you understand what I'm saying. I think it was,
It's a metaphor.
I know that guy, yes. I think that guy was known for doing stuff, but they've changed his name. There's not, and there was no, where's the news about it? Where is it? It's very slight to even hear anything about it. I'm asking you because I have to search to find information.
Yeah. The system.
Yeah.
Well, when you hear about stuff like that, you're not going to hear stuff like that on mainstream media. You know, they're going to cover pretty much what they want, and it's basically anything that they believe to be their truth as far as covering the news. It's like when you look at what they're doing to our history, I think a good example of that was, look at what they did to Nikola Tesla. That man was brilliant with his work. He was nothing short of amazing, and they just came in overnight and just took everything from him.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, that is one of the, in my heart, is one of the saddest stories of in history. It just really is, because Nikola was brilliant beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Serbian American, but he was, oh my gosh, that story is just heartbreaking. I mean, because there's thieves among us. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Nothing, I mean, we're sacred and they're secular, and dividing it is it's just a straight line to divide the difference between the two.
Yeah. And with the little boy, by the way, I was just informed in the chat room that he's actually doing a lot better. So he's healing quicker than they expected, which I'm so glad to hear.
A lot of people praying for that young man.
Yeah.
Imagine if nobody has seen, but I'm sure everybody has, but just in case nobody has seen, the young boy was white, and the person who did it was dark skinned. Imagine if it were turned around. Imagine if it were a white guy who grabbed a young boy that was of dark skin and threw him over the rails at the mall. Imagine the outpour of anger that would be focused against him. But yet, because it doesn't fit in their system, it doesn't go along with their agenda, if you will, then it's kept pretty much quiet. I mean, people have told me, I don't watch television, so I don't really know, but I've had several friends tell me, yes, we've seen it. It was very short, but it was, yes, we have seen it. So it's been kept, if anything, it's been kept at a minimum. And there's no reason for that, other than...
Yeah, and you're right. If it had been reversed, there would be riots in the street. The news would be nonstop. It would be 24/7. And I might add, because the guy was black, if he would have even done that to a little black boy, no news either. It's just because that doesn't fit their narrative either. If some innocent little black kid got thrown over by a black guy, no, it's just like Chicago.
Yep.
Bag them and toe tag them. Next.
Yep.
So it's not about a little boy, because it doesn't matter the color. It only matters the perpetrator's color. And if it doesn't fit their agenda to stir up the pot, they just squelch the whole news story.
Yeah, and I just want to say that, like, there are bad apples in
There's
every
bad
bunch.
apples in every bunch. Not everybody is perfect. And I just think it's just a travesty, because it could have happened to anybody. And it's just...
I agree with what you guys are saying. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
That, like...
listen, in Chicago, little kids that are as innocent as the day is long are sitting there with their crayons, and a drive-by, a bullet goes through them, and they are dead. And this is statistic. So every day, little kids are being murdered. Nobody cares. It just doesn't make news. It's not anything that's going to stir up anything.
because it doesn't fit into the system. See, that if we go back to this, I call it a system. You call it what you want. I call it, and they tell you when you're watching television. I remember very well. We'll be right back with our program. Don't go away. They're telling you.
Absolutely.
You know.
Speaking of which,
and they're called programming schedules. And when you say like global, I mean that's global. Global is bail, and bail is about two things. It's fertilization, sex trafficking, and it's about child sacrificing. Hello. We've got sex traffickers. Trump's putting the kibosh, or trying to, if he can, put the kibosh on that sex trafficking and abortion. So we've got global completely enveloping our society, and people don't get it.
Okay, and why don't we continue this conversation after our next commercial break? You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but...
Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and affiliates, and on the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before we get back to the interview, let's take a quick moment to specifically mention the radio call dials for the AM/FM terrestrial radio stations who carry Paraversal Universe, including WCET, which is located on 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, and High Point Radio, which can be found on 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, which broadcast in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Hello to all of you who are tuning in over the airwaves. We appreciate it very much, and we're glad you are with us. This segment is brought to you by the Parasociology like page on Facebook. Parasociology is the study of how paranormal manifestations and experiences can affect a family, group, or collective. Parasociology also examines how spirituality is practiced in different cultures. So go check that out if you get a chance, and leave a like for future content, hopefully. All right, back to the show. This is Paraverse Universe, and we're talking to conspiratorial analysts, Riscalla Stephen and Angel Strong from the Red Pill reality show. You guys are still with us?
We are.
Right here.
So another thing I wanted to bring up, and that was one major worry is that I have, and I know Jennifer has, and many people have, that is relevant all of a sudden today is 5G. It's clearly dangerous, and the president won't even acknowledge that it is. At least he hasn't lately, which I find bothersome. I notice that the mainstream media and the president, at least on this one issue, seem to have some kind of pact not to focus on the dangers. Not one question was asked about the dangers of 5G during the last press conference I watched. And my thought is that if they have towers everywhere, and if they can flip a switch and all of a sudden everyone can, let's say, becomes nauseous, becomes ill, that to me is crowd control. That to me is total human control. Because then, you can't even protect yourself if they can flip a switch and make everyone sick. That's, of course, that's under the conspiracy title, but some conspiracies are true. And with this one, many educated people have spoken out against the dangers of this. And we see, like, for example, birds dying around these towers. That's concerning. They had that one school that was within, like, very close distance to one of these towers, and the kids were having nosebleeds.
Yeah. Well, there's one school where they had cancer. We had to remove it.
Oh, speaking of which, we had that question in the chat.
Yeah, so someone had asked, and this was a health-related question for you, Riscalla. Back when you had cancer and they offered you chemo and you said no, what did you use to treat your cancer?
A protocol that I came up with is a combination of the Gerson therapy, which uses enemas, and Dr. Simoncini, who uses baking soda. G. Edward Griffith's documentary about B-17, and what is his name? Rick Simpson's Run from the Cure, which utilizes THC, which comes from the cannabis plant. And then I found a nutrient. I can't remember the name of it, but I found it at a health food store, which was like a meal replacement, which is nothing but nutrients. That's all it was for your body. And I went on this like fast. That's all I would eat was that, because my logic was I'll have my body fighting the cancer instead of working at trying to digest and other, things like that. It would be fighting the cancer. It would give my body all the energy that it needed. And then I just checked my pH. My pH levels, I kept them over 7. I would be at like 7.25, 7.5. I got up to 7.1 at one point. As long as I was above the 7, I knew I was killing off the cancer.
That's cool.
That's great.
And I remember we talked before, and there are a couple Red Pill reality episodes that we were on. If you want to find them, you can find them. I posted them, I believe, in the Paraversal Universe Show archives. At least, yeah, one of them was posted, and then the other ones were posted in the comments, where we discuss some of this stuff in more detail. But like with the 5G, because this is something else too that aside from my speculation on they can flip a switch and we're all going to be temporarily immobilized, or
much more than that.
What are your thoughts on this? On everything I said regarding 5G?
Angel, you start and I'll follow.
Well, I think we've gone in reality from science fiction to science fact that we know now. It might have been before where you would say something that you could turn a switch and people would die or do something. But we know, listen, there is a capsule endoscopy where you swallow a pill. It's a camera. It's the size of a pill. And you swallow it and you put a magnet on your stomach and you can pull that pill everywhere through your body and it'll show you stuff. So if that sounds like science fiction, it's not. It's reality. And I know the person that developed it. So as far as that goes, I think we're at that point. Listen, we're all connected through this internet. Just imagine the whole globe is. So nothing is out of reach, that people aren't even transfixed already to this phosphate on these screens. But as far as Trump, I love President Trump. He doesn't understand because that's not his forte. Hopefully somebody will get his ear and talk to him about the 5G. He looks at it as a business for people to make job openings. I'm with you. I know that there are dangers, cancer causing, and all of that go along with all this technology. They've proven that out now. But for President Trump, that's just not, he doesn't claim to be a scientist or a physician, and he's just not privy. I'm sure people are saying stuff or it will get to him eventually.
Well, that was one of the things early on with Trump was that he had advisors who were libertarian, who were neutral, who were knowledgeable about the different conspiracies that are going on right now. And I would have to think that Trump, being probably one of the most powerful men in the world, would know the basics about this. I think there's I just don't understand why he's not saying we need to delay this until we can test it better, or we need to look at different. Yeah, it's just, and I know that this stuff is years in the making, but he's backing it, and I just hope that no harm comes to anybody because of it.
Well, what we have always known is that he would be doing a lot more about a lot of things if he wasn't up against the fan blades with everything that's coming at him. He cannot do it all, even if he knows some of it about the 5G. There's so many things. I mean, everything we eat's poisoned, basically, unless we grow it in our backyard. So once he's fighting off everything, since the day he took his oath, he has been up against possible impeachment, possible indictments, everything up. He hasn't even had a chance to unravel yet.
Yeah, he definitely has to pick his battles. Like he can't.
He does.
I do understand that. I think there's something else going on behind the scenes where he doesn't have the leverage he would need to make a stand against it.
I don't know that he's told as much as the ramifications of it. You know what I mean? I think he knows what he knows, but he doesn't. They're not letting him in on all of it.
Here's a point that we're missing here. We talked about this earlier. People have the power. There is and I can't tell you where, but I know, maybe I can come up with it here in a minute. People shut down the 5G in their area. The city council voted on it, and the people said, no, we don't want it here. And the people voted it out. If more people would join together under this, unite under this subject, we wouldn't have to worry about, why isn't President Trump doing this? Again, it goes back to people having the power. This is something that we hold that we're not exercising. And like any muscle, if you don't exercise it, it atrophies. And that's what's happened to our country. We have atrophied. The people are not involved like they should be. And as a result of that, we have this muck. It's just these people run amok. Look at the way they act. Look at what this one guy. What's the one guy, Angel, who said the first thing I'm going to do is go for guns? Wants to run for president. Do you remember his name? It's not that Bud Geek guy, is it?
I mean, are you talking about Beto?
Maybe it's Beto.
O'Rourke?
Yeah, I think he
Robert
is.
O'Rourke?
No, it was Beto. That's the guy who said, I'm going to throw all the old people and the vets and that's the guy, right?
He's a nutcase. I mean, I read a poem he wrote. And it's just, it's over the top. And I think that, it's tough because the media is telling everyone, hate Trump, hate Trump, hate Trump.
Right.
And I'm hoping that I can see right through it. You know what I'm saying? I know it's tough because we have to pay attention to what they're saying so we know what they're saying and doing. The problem is we can't start believing everything they're saying. We've seen that. They say Hillary's ahead in the polls. It's a lie. She's not. They say, there are so many examples about how Trump would never win and he won.
Mm-hmm.
How there was Russian collusion and there wasn't.
Right. Or how they would sit there and say that at Trump rallies and when he got in as president, there weren't that many people there. There was a lot more people there at all of his events than they even bothered to let everybody else in on.
So I think that, certainly this next election is huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is it not? I mean,
I agree.
Because not only can we keep Trump in power, see, I support him for no other reason than he is, but for all the choices that we are going to be given, I think he's good. He's the one that is seems closest to God, and he seems closest to the greater good.
Yeah, he's definitely got some divine protection there for sure.
So, he does. I don't know if you all had heard this, and just shut me down because I don't want to be repetitious, but when I was with Michael Vera and Riscalla, I brought up that his grandmother started the company, and her name was Elizabeth Christ. And she had 3 children, and only one of them's name is Christ, and that's Donald's father, Frederick Christ Trump. And I understand names, and I know what Christ is. I know it just is anointed. I mean, I understand that. But it shows that he's got a lineage of Christianity that goes way, 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 way back. And if you check...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, I'm sorry. You get a word in edgeways. Go ahead.
No. You're the guest. So please finish.
Continue.
Yes, continue.
Please continue.
I'm just saying the fact that Elizabeth Christ, and I tell people, check but verify or trust but verify, that Elizabeth Christ ran that business and chose one of her children only to carry the Christ name, and it happened to be our president's father, that the lineage of Christians goes so far back. And that's why there's so many lies against this man. Because, like I've said, he ends every single speech with God bless America, and the left despise that.
Yes, they do. They very much do. And that's like I said, he is a God-fearing man,
right?
And that's important to me. Yeah. Because that says that he's got moral character, and that's important to me.
Well, it's what's huge is he believes in God and not in government.
Well, God over
government.
Let me rephrase that. sorry, God over government.
And he says we worship our God, not our government.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
So you don't think that the people that absolutely despise our God, our Father, that they want somebody like him that's, you know, before he was elected, he was running around saying, I'm going to bring back Merry Christmas. Mm-hmm. And that just, you know, people just hated, or the left hated to hear that. Mm-hmm. But he did not pull punches. He just says what he says. He doesn't need no teleprompter like BHO did. Every word came out of his mouth was off of a screen. Everything that comes out of President Trump's mouth comes out of his heart, up his windpipe, and out of his yap. So he just says it how he feels, and I respect that.
I think a lot of people.
Can you tell I'm defensive?
No, people. I think that's why he was voted in to be where he is, because a lot of people saw that. They were tired of the real slick talk and everything sounds so nice, and then you get in office and what happens? You stab us in the back the moment that your first opportunity that you get. I think people were tired of that, and they could see that this man wasn't along those lines, that he was indeed different. One of the things that I don't agree 100% with him, with what he's done, but I think he's done an outstanding job, regardless of that.
Right,
but
and compared to... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that drives them with the hatred for him is the fear of what's going to happen to them if he succeeds. If he succeeds, they're either going to go to prison or they're going to get executed. That's really what it boils down to. That's the reality of what we're talking about. That's why you see this fierce fight going on. Yes, they are absolutely in a panic mode because they are in fight for their lives right now. Once he succeeds, it's either going to be prison or execution.
Yeah. But, and I give him a lot of credit. I mean, the mess that he walked into when he got in office had just insane.
I think it was worse than he realized.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he has, getting us out of the TPP. I thought that was huge.
Definitely.
He's certainly done, he's going up against literally centuries of momentum against him. And to apply the brakes doesn't mean he can just stop everything like that. It's like a train, a heavy train. It's going to take a while you apply the brakes. It's going to take a while before it stops. And, the question is, of course, when his time is done, who will succeed him? Hopefully, it will be someone else who cares as much as he did. I think I
have an interesting theory. It's just strictly a theory, and I don't think I've even talked to Angel about this.
Exclusive, everyone. Exclusive. Go ahead.
There's a couple of articles I've read, and there's some people who have done some extensive research and believe that they have presented evidence that JFK Jr. is alive. JFK Jr. and him were personal friends.
Oh, wow.
So who would be better to succeed him
yeah.
than JFK Jr.? Yeah. If that is true. I mean, that's I know that's out there. That's really, really out there. But there are people you can, like Angel says, you can trust but verify. Go out there and do your own research. And some of the evidence is pretty strong. They've taken some pictures.
I saw the pictures where it showed it looked like him in a crowd at a basketball game, right. And it looked like Carolyn Bessette.
Exactly. And it's pretty hard. Yep. Pretty hard to imitate the nose that she has. That she had that very unique nose, and this young lady had the same. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys. It's strictly a theory. I don't really have any gut feelings about it either way, but it is very interesting. Some of the way people have researched this, literally broken it down, taken face pictures of him, measured the distance between the eyes, measured the distance between the ears, and they seem to match up to earlier pictures of JFK Jr. identically. So it's kind of a freaky thing. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Who else? Who would be better to replace him than JFK Jr.?
Right, and then and then here's another wonderful thing that somebody just pointed out. The two people just pointed out in chat that our president does. He gives his paychecks to charity, and so does his family. How many other presidents have done that?
None. Zero.
Exactly. He came in there giving instead of taking, where he's losing money. He is losing money and his health. I mean, you're fighting tooth to toenail.
Yeah, his net worth has gone down $1 billion, but they want to see his tax returns. I'd like to see the tax returns of people like Nancy Pelosi, Mr. Schumer, I think I can see his face and I can't think of his name. There's many of them up there. I would like to see their tax returns because I believe it would show incriminating evidence that they are doing things they shouldn't be doing. How do you get from being almost bankrupt to like $40 or $50 million in assets within just a span of 8 years? Because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about somebody like the last president.
Pelosi especially.
Pelosi's another one. I think it was over $100 million for Pelosi.
With that, why don't we finish this commercial? Why don't we finish this conversation after our last commercial break? You're listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the final segment.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Alrighty, we're back, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, and we're glad you are with us, as always. We now have the T-shirt of the logo for Lake Monstrosities for purchase. Half the proceeds will go to charity and the specific cause to help 8-year-old Daniel DeMisa, who suffers from Dravet syndrome and seizures on a regular basis. Lake Monstrosities is the largest social media group outlet dedicated to aquatic mysteries and wonders of all kinds. So look for those shirts there. It's a great group, great artwork, great shirt for a great cause. This segment is brought to you by the 5-star Reader Choice Award-winning epic fantasy trilogy Helm by Robert L. Malik. And back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking with conspiracy analysts and radio personalities Riscalla Stevens and Angel Strong from the Red Pill reality show on WCET-FM.
Thank you.
Yes. And so there is an announcement, right, regarding a new show, I believe.
Oh, yes. We're going to let the cat out of the bag.
Okay. Another exclusive, everyone.
Yes.
kind of.
Wildcats.
Well, it's already been out of the bag, but on the show.
Go ahead, Angel.
Yes, I am going to fly solo and do a show myself. It will be called Angel Strong. And I hope I get some Facebook friends. Please look me up on Facebook at Angel Strong. And if you're following Riscalla at Red Pill Reality or Kevin and Jennifer, please follow me because I follow them and I love listening and absorbing all their information. But it's going to be about tying the biblical and political arena together because that's my forte. I'm a biblical scholar, and I see it through the prism of the political arena that we're watching today. Because I think we're coming towards, I'm not going to say in the end time, but we're coming towards something that's about to happen. And that's what my show is going to be about.
And what about your experience with blood, DNA, and all of that? What is that?
My experience is that I studied, well, first of all, I did the genealogy through the biblical text because that is what is so important. I mean, from beginning to end, who beget, from the Old to the New Testament. So then I started really, one of my brothers is a physician. He's a geneticist. I mean, he's got 8 boards as an MD, but one of them is in genetics. So we started to really understand and to find out what was the core of good versus evil. And as a matter of fact, I think it's Time Magazine this week has something about good versus evil. Is it genetic? Well, I've always known it's genetic. But the Bible tells us it's genetic. If you really pay attention to what it says, it is more about biology than it is even about spirituality. I mean, it's a blend of both. But there are some people that are born bad seeds. And it starts in the Garden of Eden, and Cain kills Abel. And then, if the biblical text was a fairy tale, by the 4th chapter, the good guy's dead and the bad one is living. So that's going to be part of what my show is about, too, of how these seed lines are fighting each other on a daily basis.
One question. Oh, no. Okay. One question I had written down that I wanted to ask you guys. How much time do we have? Not much. We have a few minutes. Just really quick, your views on ancient history and where we come from. Because when you look into a lot of this, you have to go, well, you eventually end up going way back, reading all the esoteric stuff in the writings and everything. Do you guys subscribe to evolution, or do you think there's more going on?
Go ahead, Angel.
Well, I don't believe in evolution because I've actually engineered things and know that nothing can happen from nothing. And anybody that's ever studied biology knows that we don't have any semi-fossils, like no in-betweeners. They're called tweeners. Like there's no half this and half that are found in fossil remains. I do believe, though, that there's different types of people. I do believe that there, of course, we know that there was Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, prehistoric type of men, but that's in the biblical text, too. It's just not understood when it's read in the King's English or any other language. In Hebrew, it's very clear. There's certain letters, jots, and tittles that are taken out in the English because they thought they were superfluous. But when I read it, it's very clear that there's different types of human beings, but not like that I was primordial mud soup and then became a human and then into an ape. No. I mean, I have met people that will argue with me that they are from primordial mud soup, and after arguing with them for about 5 minutes, I start to agree with them.
Oh, boy. Oh, well. No, I think we were engineered. I think very clearly the evidence shows that we were engineered. We're the only species on this planet that is supposed to be the smartest species, and we're the only ones who have to pay to live here. We're definitely engineered.
Yes. Yes, I think somebody had said that the human being is the only being that's smart enough to build a building and then jump off of it.
Good gravy.
So, I mean, we are, and as technology is blowing up right now, we see in Riscalla, I know you and I have talked about this, I know Jennifer and Kevin have. Kids are coming out of the womb knowing how to use a cell phone within months. I mean, I'm not saying they can dial, but I'm saying they're staring at phosphate and phosphorus on the screens, and they know stuff. An 8-year-old knows more how to do technology than I do.
Not good.
Yeah, and I have a list here of almost 50 conspiracies. I should add a couple more and just make it an even 50 conspiracy. There are so many that we haven't touched on. The artificial intelligence, the indoctrination of society and family, or the destruction of family, things that affect children, the things that are affecting the millennials. And here's a generation that has been given the least amount of moral instruction, and it's it's kind of scary.
Can I tell you my biggest conspiracy real quick?
Sure.
Please?
Yes.
This is what I think that I'm going to really touch on. I hope you guys come on the show with me, all three of you. I think that there's no coincidence that in 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls popped up. There was a few fragments, but the better ones in 1947. The same time the Roswell accident happened, and the same time that Israel was introduced to become a state in the late 1947, and then did become a state in 1948. Those three things that happened right at that time is no coincidence, and it's changed the whole, all of our history right then and there, because the Dead Sea Scrolls proved out the biblical text. Roswell, and I think I know a lot about that, and Israel becoming what it is today. So.
Wow.
Yep, 3 significant events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have 4 minutes left, so we should probably. Is there any final thoughts you guys have that you'd like to share with everybody?
Riscalla, do you want to tell our listeners where they could find you on air?
You can find the easiest way to find us. The Red Pill Reality Show has a page up on Facebook. Click on the Contact Us. It takes you directly to our server, and you can listen on the live streaming server. That's the easiest way. There's other way. You can go to latenightintthemidlands.com, and there's a chat room there as well. And you can tune in, click on the Listen Live, and you can listen there as well. But before I forget, and I think I mentioned this to Kevin, I'm not sure, but your name in Arabic, Kevin, would be King. So you're Kevin King.
Oh.
And in Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Hebrew, yes, it means king, ruler.
Cool.
That's pretty groovy. I mean, because, it can mean a lot of things. Or there's a lot of things that any word could potentially mean. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. In Arabic, it's Malik. Malik is a king.
Same exact wording in Hebrew.
That's cool.
No, that's really interesting.
So we feel honored. We feel honored that we've been with royalty.
Yes.
Like, we're both glad, and blessed to have you guys as friends and to have you on the network, to have you on our radio show tonight. So
feelings are mutual, my dear. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we appreciate it because it is so much fun. Because we really never run out of things to say. We just
go on and on and on. And we'll be on tomorrow night, 9 to midnight, from 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time.
Yes. And I also forgot to mention that you fill in for Michael Vera on Late Night in the Midlands, too. I
do occasionally. When something comes up, I try to fill in for him. And he's on from 9 to midnight, Monday through Friday.
Right. Okay. So we'd like to thank Riscalla Stephen and Angel Strong for being such wonderful guests.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Catch your show over at WCET-FM. Next Friday, we're going to have parasociologist David Keelman on, and we're going to be talking about Dogman.
Ooh.
So don't miss that.
Wow.
Wow.
Feel free to support any of the networks mentioned here tonight, as well as the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited 501c3 nonprofit organization by donating. It's folks like you who ensure that these excellent organizations and networks will be here tomorrow. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. God bless you. Everyone have a wonderful night and a wonderful weekend, and we will see you here next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Love you back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.